I think that comes into whether the party itself believes and listens to the voice of young people.
The truth is, there's so much power in us that we can change our future, can decide who to lead our state. And that is the upcoming state. We will find a leader that is more suitable to become our leaders.
Young people have to show to the political leaders or even the people or the public that you can deliver results. You know what to do and you know what's the issue and you know how to address it. Then you will be given the chance to do that.
And there's only one power that we can do, which is voting.
Hello Internet, this is another new episode for Kopitiam Council, and Adi, this is another video in our series.
Yep.
So what series are we talking about here?
We are talking about Belia Says. It is an episode initiative series amplifying the voices, perspectives and aspirations of Sabah's young people. Why? We believe that the future of Sabah depends on how well we understand one another across generations, backgrounds and beliefs. And through honest conversations, creative expression and public dialogue, Belia Says gives space for youth to speak their truths, questions what matters and contribute meaningfully to Sabah's growth. Because when the youth speaks, Sabah must listen. This series is also brought to you in collaboration with Sabah Action Body Advocating Rights, that we have done an episode before with all kinds of various speakers, if you caught that series back earlier this year. But now we are focusing on youths this time, Haffiz.
Yes, so exactly, that's why two of our guests here are also representative of their respective parties. And youth, let me introduce first Allison Chan, is a passionate youth leader dedicated in empowering Sabahan's youth voices in nation building. She's currently serves as the youth exco of UPKO, where she actively advocates for youth participations in democracy and community development. Allison is also a national award-winning public speaker. How about next guest, Adi?
Next to Allison is Chan Long Wei, also known as Desmond. He is the chief of DAP Socialist Youth, DAPSY, Sabah, and the youngest ever appointed political secretary in Sabah's history, being appointed at only 23 years old. He is a finance and investment graduate, and he has served in the Ministry of Youth and Sports Sabah and assisted the Minister of Industrial Development and Entrepreneurship Sabah. He is passionate about youth empowerment, community development, and urban planning. Desmond represents a new generation of leadership and is committed to building a progressive and united Sabah. Wow, we think we went all the way this time. We don't need to go to the main politicians themselves. We have their young representatives. We have the next generation of leaders, Hafiz. So where can we start from here?
Because we might be seeing their faces for the next 40 or 50 years.
Yeah.
So we might as well start from this podcast to, get used to these two faces so that we can see their ideas and what do they have to offer for Sabah. Right, so we talk a lot about them, but let's hear from themselves, Adi, like why they started in this, why they pick what they choose in terms of their parties or wherever their channels that they are in now. You maybe want to start with Allison first?
Thank you so much, Adi and Haffiz. I'm very honored to be here because I believe that empowering youth voices is important in Sabah, as we know that youth voters make up about over 50% of Sabah. And for me, as soon as I graduated from my SPM, I immediately knew that I wanted to be in politics because I believe that at the end of the day, politics is what will change the world and politics is what will help people. So my goal was simple. I wanted to help people with the same struggle as me facing in Sabah. And that's why I decided to be in this field. Thank you.
What kind of struggles particularly that made you push you into politics exactly?
Okay, so this is quite of a deep question, in my opinion. It has always been about financial inequality. I grew up in a household where we didn't have money to have dinner for that night. We only had 10 ringgit in our pocket to feed like 3 families. That's when I realized, what is the problem? Why does this happen? I wanted to be part of the solution and I wanted to investigate what we can do to help. Thank you.
Desmond.
Yeah, I think this is not the first time I've been here. Thank you for having me again. So the last time we were here we did it on virtually, a virtual podcast together with Hafizullah and also Adi. And I think remember that time we were still in the opposition. I think back to the question, how did I started joining politics? It started off not joining politics immediately, but student activism during my university days, where I contested as a student representative council and I was elected as the faculty's president and also the campus wide vice president. And then after MCO, I returned back to Sabah to study online. But also at the same time, I started my internship with Yang Berhormat Saudara Ginger as the Youth and Sport Minister at that time. And then I also participated in the field elections, the by-elections, the snap polls, and so on. And I believe in the aspirations and the struggle of DAP to focus on being a people-centric party. This is a party that started off as a people's movement. Dulu dari way before even Bersi started, the party was starting through grassroots movements in several states, and we see Lim Kit Siang, the veteran of DAP from Johor, Malacca, going everywhere to spread its wings, its influence, and help the people to change or build a better community and a better life. So I think that was what inspired me to start to join DAP as a party that focuses on local community development, policy centric, and also talking about idealism and ideologies, including policies to how to improve the people's life pragmatically.
Okay, wow, for quite the background. I think for you, you're more seasoned than a lot of older politicians that's going to be starting for the first time, right? You went through PRN and you went through PRU a few years back, right? And you went to another PRN. I think you're more seasoned than most people I know. So, okay, coming to both your roles as youth, right? Because youths now, they're struggling with the case of unemployment in Sabah, right? Many times we've seen a lot of Sabahan youths, they could not find employment here, they could not find gainful employment. So they all moved towards Semenanjung, mostly KL, right? So in your opinion, right, based on maybe the work you've done, what is it that drives a lot of this issue really? What kind of contributing factors do you feel?
I'll give it to Desmond first.
Okay, so working in the Ministry of Industrialization, Industrial Development, and Entrepreneurship, it actually shows a different perspective of view. We cannot describe or define unemployment based on unemployment rate. It's quite unfair. So if you want to look into the macro of it, you have to look into the employed persons. And given the statistics, true numbers wise, we have seen that there has been an increment of employed person. So from 1.67 million to 1.81 million of employed people, we have seen an increment of 140,000. Not necessarily young people, but Sabahans. So we believe that bringing in investments and also pushing industrial development is very crucial in addressing that issue. So how do we do about that? People tend to still have that stigma or stereotype that, working for a factory, working for kilang is dirty work, is hard work. You have to be, it's labor work, but not necessarily. The administrative jobs, the logistic, and they have various departments. Because being a factory, you have from head to toe. There's a lot of things, including labors, working forces, but there is also management level being offered. And today we can see, for example, Ascan Excelis and Keebing, what do they bring? What impact do they bring to the state is not only offering job opportunities, but decent pay. That's what we're talking about. If you want to just look at job opportunities, there's a lot. There's a lot of job opportunities across the state, but why people still go to Semenanjung, still go to Singapore, or still go to other countries to work? Because the pay itself doesn't match what they have been investing in themselves academically or even skillfully. So that's why they go to other states or other countries to look for jobs. And I think that bringing in investment and also industrial development can address the mismatch and attract these young people, young talents to come back. And quoting Deputy Minister of MITI, Saudara Chintong, he has always said, if we are able to offer 2/3 of the wage that they are earning overseas, we can attract them back. Because that 1/3 of that has been reduced is the cost of living, the rental, the transportation fee that they are bearing themselves overseas. They can save it there, and they are more than happy to return home to serve and work at home with their family reunited and so on. So I think bringing industrial development itself is very crucial in addressing this chapter of brain drain and unemployment. And also, I think the other side of it, being in entrepreneurship empowerment wise, why is this issue of unemployment that big in Sabah, that high across Sabah's database or so on? Because we are unable to capture the true figures. People who start their small businesses or online businesses are still captured unemployed. Although they are still earning, they are self-employed, but it's still captured under the unemployed database. So we are looking in different perspective and aspects on how do you actually view unemployment rate and how do we address and help as much as possible. Sabah actually has a big potential in vendor economy, in creative industry. We've seen more and more markets, hawker economies and so on, and that has what we have been trying to do and help within our capacity in the ministry to establish funds to recreate or encourage more markets like this to not only attract buyers for as tourists but also other local supporting local economy.
Listen, let me get to you that Desmond said, Sabah has full of potential.
Yes.
We heard this for decades. Potential. But without a proper access of roads, undisrupted water and electricity, no company in their right mind would want to invest in a region like us.
Yeah.
So how do we go about, especially you may talk from your party perspective, how are you going to solve these basic amenities that we really in dire need of?
Okay, so I would like to start off from the very first start, is that we know that my party president, Wabi Datu Iwan Benedict, has worked closely with Yang Berhormat Fung Chinza in developing entrepreneurs. So KUSKOP actually gave a lot of initiative in developing potentials and also small businesses, SMEs. We all have seen Ratu Iwan Benedict is very focusing on developing rural entrepreneurs like Tamu Desa. There are lots of development happening. If we go to Penampang, we will see that this has been the most developed Tamu Desa and the most empowered traditional businesses I've ever seen. And on top of that, KUSKOP also opened a TikTok shop ex Tekun National in Penampang to empower more young people to go into digital selling and also becoming digital entrepreneurs. So they're not just looking for a job, but they're also creating something of value. And it's very saddening to see the issue that there are lots of local Sabahan who flew to Semenanjung because we can see the income disparities between the same job. Tapi Semenanjung bayar 2,000. Tapi kalau di Sabah 1,500-700. So they had to go there. And another issue that I would like to point out is that we have seen that banyak orang di Sabah, they go to oversee like Korea or Australia. And if you ask them, what do you do there? They are there to like working in agriculture sectors. But kita Sabah sini, we have agriculture sector, but why are they going to Korea and Australia to work there? So this is where the unemployment issue rises. There are lots of Sabahans who are craving for wage that matches their capabilities. So about the infrastructure issue, how does UPKO address this issue is that UPKO has been a strong advocate for making sure that Wabil Iwan Benedict is very anti-contractors. He does not want to work closely with contractors that can do some scandalous things. What I knew is that UPKO has been very transparent that they don't want to collaborate with any sketchy things behind the scene. So about infrastructure, water, UPKO has built a empangan air in Babagon, Penampang, and that has been benefiting the locals in Penampang a lot until today. So in my perspective, it all depends on the leader that we chose, what is their principle. And as far as I'm in UPKO's principle has been clear. It has always been about integrity and doing what's right for the people. I've seen what Penampang has been developed by our MP as well and our past UPKO leaders who are based in Penampang. So that's my input.
I mean, just follow up on that. Like, Penampang also very synonymous with flooding. Does APKO have anything in their books to mitigate this?
Oh yes, we have known recently about the Rancangan Malaysia ke-13. Actually, the flood mitigation plan almost did not include in the RMK 13, but Yang Berhormat Datuk Iwan Benedict as an MP Penampang has fought for a flood mitigation plan has been implemented in the new Belanjawan 2026 in RMK 13 so that this flood mitigation issue can be confronted, can be solved through this Belanjawan that coming soon 2026. And I would like to add in on top of that is that recently during the landslide and flood issue in Penampang, APKO and YB, myself as a young generation, we also went out there to did a lot of initiative. We did a food bank, and Dato Iwan has arranged tractors to help the houses that has been kena impede by the landslides. So we are trying our best, and that this natural disaster, no one wants it to happen. That I would like to address is that not sometimes, natural disaster is unpredictable. But what we can do is do our part in behalf that is in our control. And I'm happy to see that our MP Penampang has did this flood mitigation plan, to fought for flood mitigation plan in the new budget for the next year.
I think to touch a bit on the infrastructure wise, especially being in the ministry itself, we also always encounter this question where, tak cukup air, tak cukup elektrik,
Yes.
macam mana tarik pelaburan. I think first thing first, people have to also understand that investments, especially industrial development, of course, you have mega projects, mega investments that need high intensity of electricity and water, but also you have those that have low demand on water electricity, but you can create high impact jobs and create a downstream economy. For example, you have the biomass industry where you can use biomass from kelapa sawit to produce different products. And these are the industries that don't take up a lot of electricity or even water, that has been tight and tense for Sabah. And other than that, for example, like the food industry, we have a lot of entrepreneurs on the ground doing food packaging, small scale food packaging. But actually, we have a big amount. That's why the government introduced the blue economy.
Yes.
We are the government. We are the state with the longest coastal line, and we are very rich in blue resources.
Yes.
Such as the seafood industry and so on. And if we can develop the downstream, such as packaging it, repackaging it to export in big scale, big amounts, and that would be a game changer for the Sabah economy. And addressing the issue of electricity and water especially, I think Sabah have to move into a new chapter where we debate on this based on science and realistic and pragmatic solutions. Why are we now today at the junction where we have these issues? Because dulu we bantah the Papa Dam, we bantah the coal fire power plant and so on. I'm not saying that we have to reinstate that now, but if we are to overcome these issues, what are the solutions? We do not want to have mere rhetoric that kalau saya jadi kerajaan dalam 1 tahun saya tolong selesaikan masalah ni lah, tak mungkin lah, tak mungkin.
Ouch.
So we know that it's not a one day thing. It's not that something that you can solve in a one blink.
100%.
So Sabah, we have seen a transition from the federal government that we have taken over Sabah Electricity Sdn Bhd, SE, and also we have established our own energy commission. We have our own Sabah Energy Council, and the efforts that DAP has been putting in is although the government doesn't have an energy minister, but we have taken proactive approaches to talk to MITI to establish a roundtable discussions where we are starting to look into potential technologies such as small modular reactors, nuclear energy. We are looking into ocean thermal. We are looking into better base load. So Sabah punya issue on electricity is the energy mix. We have more than 80% based on gas, natural gas. Imagine if today any pipeline ada apa-apa masalah macam Putra Heights, touch wood jangan but anything happens like Putra Heights, we're gone. The entire state will black out for weeks or months. And if we want to reduce that risk of it, we have to diversify our energy mix. Even Sarawak, the hydro energy, but they still depend heavily on coal-fired power plant. And we're not talking about traditional conservative coal-fired power plant, but we want to have a modernized, more greener coal-fired power plant where we have the carbon capture system coupled with it. If we are to implement it, it is proven that it is a stable base load power plant. And we want to have pragmatic solutions like this. If we are to reject the coal-fired power plant, what do we have? Are we going to build a hydro energy plant? But that will take up to 3 to 5 years. It's not something that you can do in 1 year. So other than that, what can we do? And I think that comes into the crucial topic that Sabahans have to listen this election. Bukan hanya rhetoric and slogans, but tell us the solutions. I think it's interesting that, I mean, in other states mungkin belum lagi, but in Sabah, semua pernah jadi kerajaan. Everyone has been in government. You cannot say that, we have no experience to govern the government, so we don't know how to do it, or we don't know that this is not realistic. Semua pernah jadi. And all these main coalitions, they have been in Sabah politics for more than 30 years. All of them, the chiefs, at least the chiefs. Other than Harapan lah. Semua orang muda. Mustafa first term, then Ginger on his second term, but 7 years. Then Dato' Iwan Benedict pun.
Oh yes, 100%.
Other than us, so other leaders that have been in Sabah so long, you offer your solutions, and the voters shall judge or make a decision based on the solutions that you give. Don't tell us that if we win, we will do this. We will solve it. How? Give the how, because everyone has been in government. Everyone should have a set of policies and a set of solutions that you are ready to offer if you govern. So, not only to, of course, everyone knows the issues.
Yeah.
If I'm telling you, everyone will tell you the same, that I can solve it.
But solution is hard.
So
Coming up solution.
here's the thing, right? Because you both are talking on a policy level, right? Fantastic. Because
Yeah.
not many young people are willing to engage at the policy level. A lot of the times we like to complain, but we interfacing with governance is just as important,
Yeah.
right? So given both your experiences, like you've been on the ground, you saw it firsthand also. You also do a lot of groundwork as well. What does it feel like being a young person in that situation? Because Desmond, you always go to the events representing your boss, right? And talking, the way you talk, definitely in a room full of older people, right? And you also, as a young person, Allison, you go down, young person, seeing these issues, right? How is it like as a young person being involved in the front and center of things, like being in front, leading the charge in a way, or even having the leading charge in terms of ideas and actions? What is it like? Maybe Allison, you can answer.
Oh, how is it like being a young person
in that situation? Like you said, you go down to the flood,
Oh, yeah.
and that.
Okay. When I decided to join politics, because I thought I wanted to help people, but when you're actually being involved there, you would feel even more powerless, because you realize that the problem is so much deeper than you think. And then you also don't really have the full power to solve the entire issue. I mean, if I have a magic wand, I would wish all these problems would be gone, but it's not. And unfortunately, even if you are part of the policy making in politics, it still doesn't mean that you can solve the entire thing, because you're still not a YB, you're still not a minister, and you're still not the chief minister. And then I realized that being a youth experiencing these issues, it is absolutely heartbreaking. And then that is when I wanted to find what can we as youth do. And there's only one power that we can do, which is voting. Voting is the youth right in order to change. And that this voting is not just, like you said, like slogan, then rhetoric. We can just vote someone because the internet tells us this is bad, and we can just vote someone because our parents said this is good. I think what needs to be happen in Sabahan youth is critical thinking and intellectualism. We are not teaching the youth what to think. we are teaching the youth how to think. How do we value our representative of the people? We are not just voting politicians. Anyone can be politicians. I can just play around and say, hey, I'm a hero for everyone. Then I'm a politician. But no, we need to vote for Wakil Rakyat. There's a huge difference between a politician and the representative of the people. And that is when I realized that we collectively need to empower the power of voting among young people. Because as they said, youth are the kingmaker, right? So we can decide who is the next leader that will win, and we can decide which leader that can be trusted to hold our burden and then solve this issue and come up with solutions. And unfortunately, there are lots of people out there that they don't really come up with solutions. What do? They only play with emotions. They are tunding jari sana sini, playing the blaming games like, oh, saya tidak dapat solve ini sebab dia begini, sebab saya bukan begini, sebab saya bukan begini. And I think in the future, Gen Z leaders are going to be so pressurized, and I think Gen Z voters are going to be so educated. And I believe you're going to be one of the Gen Z YB. And your voters are going to be very intellectuals and very strict. So our standard of politician in the future will be higher than the standards that people set back in the day. Because as we know, campaign dulu dengan campaign sekarang pun sangat berbeza. Dulu open markas, people come and we do speak. We talk, yeah, I'm like this, I'm XYZ like that. But now in the future, sekolah politik orang muda ialah social media. Everything comes from the comment section. Everything comes from the video, AI videos. So that is to me, as youth, what I'm truly passionate about is empowering the power of youth votes. And that is the only way now that we can reform our Sabah's future.
All right, that's very ideally because what we have on the ground, if I may address this to Desmond, one of the worst kind of youth involvement in politics is that it's some of them. I'm not saying all. Some of them become just a tokenism of politics. Political party. You know, we put forward some young faces, but it's about it. And Allison mentioned about being powerless in certain situations. If you're not, even if you're not a YB, or then you're not a chief minister, or even you're not the prime minister to make certain calls. So how do you, or what would you say to youth out there that I want to be in politics, but I don't want to be that kind of politicians. I want to be youth that involved in politics that make the real change. So what would you say?
I think I agree with what she said just now, that our voters, the people now are getting smarter and smarter. Dulu tak ada exposure kepada so many information, and now we have that exposure of information to the people through social media, and that is also a double-edged sword that you have to be careful of false information and true information. But other than that, we're looking into how young people that can really make change in parties. I think that comes into whether the party itself believes and listens to the voice of young people. I think I remember during our previous days that we mentioned before, DAP as a party, we not only give chances to young people, but we judge on meritocracy. Not saying that today that you're seasoned, you've been in the party for 20 years, you confirm jadi YB, you confirm ambil ini tempat, and so on. But we're saying that young people are there not just to fill the quota basis as a youth wing.
Yes.
Yeah. So today we see DAP in the history, DAP Sabah khususnya, based on history, 2013, 2018, 2020, the youngest YBs in Dun Sabah come from DAP. You have our fellow comrade dulu, Saudara Jun Zong, before dia pergi warisan, and then Saudara Ginger, then you have Saudara Justin, and so on. And I think DAP Sabah has also the youngest minister ever, and you see being given the role as political secretary wasn't a tokenism, especially DAP
Yes.
Sabah. So, but how do you play a role and bring changes even if you're not in positions? I think that comes into, you have to understand how the government runs. For example, when we go into flood situations in Lidu, in Luyang, there is still such situations. And how do you address them? You have to address the issue at its roots. Kenapa masih banjir? It's not because of only the flood mitigation plan, but you have to address the issues that there was high tides and so on. And how do you solve that? So how do you solve the issues at its roots? And if today that our Taman Srigaya has been facing some water disruptions recently for the past 2 months. If you want me to just issue statements and just do videos to hentam jabatan, senang. Senang.
Yes.
But does it solve the issues of the people? No.
No.
So we are saying that's why I say all of the main politicians in Sabah has been in the government. So you cannot say that you don't know how to solve it because you had never been in that role and you don't have the chance to do that. So now being in government, we know that what was the issue. So the short-term solution to that is we ask Jabatan Youth to send water trucks to address the immediate issues that they need water. So then we figure out what's the true issue. It was due to the landslide in the Sekolah IPG of Campus Gaya. So the entire water tanks and water pipes were broken due to the landslide. So they are building a bypass, but it couldn't sustain or support the water demand that was needed in that taman initially, because natural disaster we don't expect that to happen,
Unpredictable.
What is the midterm or long term solution to that is to request for funds to push for the infrastructure fixing of it, or the upgrading of it, or the change of it. So I think at the end of the day, young people have to show to the political leaders or even the people or the public that you can deliver results. You know what to do, and you know what's the issue, and you know how to address it. Then you will be given the chance to do that. I think we cannot just it's also the other way around. You cannot just request to be given a chance because you're young. Because I'm young people that now is a younger generation. You must give me the chance, and you just sit there and wait for the chance to be given. But I think that we have to be showing to the people that we are ready to guide, we are ready to lead, and we have a lineup of fresh leaders that are ready to govern Sabah and build a better Sabah. I think it's not necessarily just young people, but I think fresh leaders. If someone has never been in politics but he's only like 50 years old, nampak na tua. But if he can bring ideas, fresh ideas and practical solutions to the table that people has been there for 30, 40 years cannot do, then why not give them a chance? Why not give someone that knows what to do and can govern with policies and solutions a chance to lead Sabah forward? I think it's not only merely about young people. Of course, young people, young faces has to be given chances, but also based on merits, and meritocracy is quite important in my opinion. Yeah.
Okay, these are legacy issues, right? Infrastructure issues that's been there for the longest time, right? 30 years, 40 years, leaders had the chance to fix it, whatever. But let's talk about more emerging issues here. Issues that I think our generation, the millennial generation, the Gen Z generation, is bringing to the forefront conversation. And that is about mental health, right? We're not just talking about like physical infrastructure. We're talking about the intangible here. It's become, mental health crisis is a global phenomenon. We're seeing it everywhere around the world, and we're also seeing it here in Sabah. I think the National Mobility Survey back in 2019 said that Sabahans have the highest rate of depression compared to the national average. And 6 in 10 in Sabah have depressive thoughts, and at least 1 in 10 have ideas of suicide, right? You both talk about fresh leaders, right? Younger leaders who are more attuned to it, right? Let's be honest here, right? Younger people are more aware of these issues. We're more sensitive to these issues, right? What would you? This could be to any of you, both of you, as you in your respective roles in the parties, your respective parties. What would you bring to try address this issue? Because this issue has been completely not really tackled even at the national level, right?
Yes.
What would you do to bring forward that conversation? Maybe Allison can start first.
Thank you. Mental health issues are, to me, the awareness of mental health issues actually has been better than compared to previous generation. For example, Boomer generation, they didn't know what mental issues was. For them, mental issues are, oh, you're crazy. You must be crazy. You deserve to go to some kind of mental asylum. So I think this is an issue that us as Gen Z young leaders need to think about in the future, honestly. And actually now, because of the statistics have shown it's current issue. And the roles that I would think, my roles based on my party and how I would address the mental health issues among Sabahans is that there should be a campaign more pushes on modern issues, because I think that nowadays the issues that we see and have you bring up, it has always been like legacies, right? Infrastructure, water issues, but I seldom see politicians that bring out issues like mental health issues or environmental issues. No one really brought this issue up. So if I could throw up a solution about this mental health issue, it's very simple. It is to start a community engagement. I think that it all comes from mindset. Until today, we still have people that think that if you suffer depression, it means that, oh, you're weak. If you cry, it means that, oh, pigil ako Bukit Padang. I've faced this kind of issues when I cry, when I have so many pressure on top of my shoulder, and people will say to me, but you chose this, so you must handle the pressure. But the truth is, strong people is also allowed to feel emotional. Their emotion is part of human's nature. We can't get rid of emotions. So mental health issues, there's a stigma, and that as leaders, what we need to address is that we need to raise higher awareness on steps. How can we overcome this issue? It's not just posting, hey, today is mental health day. It's like once per year, but we need to be consistent, engaging the Gen Z about what their issue is. And unfortunately, a lot of mental issues is actually related to poverty, related to their conditions of living. It's not just part of their emotions. They're not crazy. It could stem from financial issues from their family. It could stem from educational issue, the academic pressure. So it is very important for young leaders to know what is the causes of this rising mental health cases. And for me, I believe in Sabah, a lot of young peoples who feel the struggle and pressurized has always been stems from financial issues. I mean, all my peers, 80% of us are all B40. We do not get to experience like, oh, I'm sad, I'm just gonna take a vacation off. We nag all the time, we complain our financial issue, and that is also, I think, one of the main cause of the rising cases of Sabahan people suffering from mental health.
Desmond, would you like to chime in on that?
Yeah, I think this has been an issue close to heart ever since, even during youth and sports days. So we have been engaging into having community mental clinics and engaging with NGOs to do more works. I think I agree with what Allison said, that we have to break the stigma that ini bukan masalah. The older generations think that this is not an issue.
Small
It's
problem.
just something, generation baru ni,
Weak.
they're soft.
We made it up
Tak
somehow.
boleh tahan. Tak boleh tahan.
Snowflakes.
Yeah.
Tak boleh tahan. Tak boleh tahan stress, tak boleh tahan tekanan. Cannot do bigger things.
Yes,
Cannot be
yes.
strong. I think it's a generational change. Every generation have their own issues, and you cannot just do a blanket approach and say that sweeping it under the carpet that there's no such issues. And I think I agree with what Allison said, that the main issue that leads to mental health issues are mainly the stress over the cost of living, poverty,
100%.
and other issues. And I think that we are ready to offer solutions that addresses these issues at the same time when you address the mental health issue. Because to address the mental health issue, you have to address it at the roots. What has the cause
What are the causes
to
of them?
leading to them having mental health issues? And I think the rise of cost of living, the low pay, and these are the things that we have to address at the same time.
Yeah.
If we are to build a strong economy, we cannot build a strong economy with broken minds. The mindset change has to be
Clock.
different.
Yes.
The leaders have to change their mindset, stop questioning the young people, why are they broken, but question why does the system fail them.
Yeah.
And change the system, and not ask them to fit into the system, but modify the system to allow the system to fit into them. At the end of the day, the YBs or the calons to be elected, they're wakil rakyat. You're representing the people. You're not representing the system. You should allow the system to fulfill the demands of the people,
empower the
not
people.
the other way around, and ask the people to sit into the system that the system begini, kalau kamu tak nak, then that is it. I think that's not the responsible way or the way forward for Sabah and politicians to be in the next 10 years or 15 years. Have to address and acknowledge that this is an issue and we have to tackle it. Tackle not only the issue itself, but the root of the issue. And I think that's very important.
All right. Another side of youth is that youth is a symbolism of being idealism of youth wants justice, youth want accountability. How do you see this as in Sabah or like in Semenanjung, most of the party, they're even in the last general elections, they already start declaring their own assets and whatnot. Maybe from your perspective here, I don't know, you want to talk on behalf of Pakatan Harapan or your own party or Sabah, all particles party as a whole, should at least standardize declaring their assets or even go further. That's saying, when you establish a manifesto, you say it out loud. After the election, it's time to carry out the work. Not saying manifesto bukan kitab suci. Or you say that?
I think assets declaration has been the normal practice within, for Harapan Reps and my party itself. It's something to hide, because as long as your assets are legalized, legally earned, what are you afraid of for assets declaration? I think that's one thing. And also, other than that, I think people not only want to know politicians whether they earn filthily rich from corrupted ways, but also how do you utilize the funds of the people given to entrusted by the people to you as a local rep, and where was the money used, where was the money utilized, what was it for? And these are the important things that I think that we have to address and be open. And I think that the generational change has changed the entire landscape of politics in Malaysia. We used to know that, susah nak jumpa YB, susah nak cari YB, susah nak jumpa menteri, and so on. But we have to change a different approach. And I think that we aspire that one day, if Sabah or Malaysia politics can be like Singaporeans, where, they can simply meet the MPs over weeks or every week or every month. And I think that is something that should be done, should be implemented by different parties and different reps, because you are elected by the people. You cannot hilang tiba-tiba after elections and only muncul dalam the last year or the few months before elections to ask for a renewal of contract. So I think that is something that we don't want to do, and I want to change that. Not only be transparent about money and assets, but also be accountable. Face the people, face your voters, and address their issues. Help them to address the issues that they are facing on the ground, or livelihood issues, longkang sumbat. Then you can talk to the local authority to solve their issues. I think don't shy away, don't run away from the responsibility entrusted or given by the people to the local rep there.
Allison, you want to chime in into that?
Oh, thank you. I would like to answer about the idealism, right? People have this perspective that youth are optimistic or idealists. I personally think that we need to be idealists and optimistic about the future. And it's really bad the way that when youth seek for justice, they will put us on this coin that kamu kena gunakan politik ataupun like tokenism, ataupun kamu ni, you think it's easy, why do you want change, why do you demand change? But personally, I think that this is actually not idealism, and it's also not a blind optimism, because if we don't believe change happen, then who is going to change? We are going to forever letting the bad guys rule the system. We are not the one who changing the system. We are not empowering ourselves, because the truth is there's so much power in us that we can change our future. Like I said earlier, we can decide who to lead our state, and that is the upcoming state. We will find a leader that is more suitable to become our leaders. So it's actually not a blind idealism or blind optimism. It's actually facts, because I've seen that if you've seen in Semenanjung youth, they are very vocal in what they're advocating. There's so much NGO and movement, like Make School a Safer Place or Undi 18. There are lots of movement in Malaysia, in Semenanjung. And imagine if this kind of fighting spirit can be bring to Sabah. That to me is not an idealism. That to me that is how every Sabahan should act like. They have this drive to want for change. They are vocal in fighting for their rights. This is how we hold our leaders accountable, correct?
I think to add a bit, I think politics should change. Where politics is not about siapa jadi ketua menteri.
Oh,
It's not about siapa nak jadi menteri, siapa nak jadi ketua menteri, parti mana untuk selamatkan Sabah, or so on. But I'm saying that choose leaders that are able to deliver results. Because you're choosing a rep for your local, neighborhood constituency for the next 5 years. If the leader is just telling you that, if you ask them, why should I vote you, what will you do? Tidak apa. You sokong saya supaya siapa jadi ketua menteri. Supaya siapa boleh teruskan jadi kerajaan Sabah. I don't think that's the way forward. I think the way forward is people vote you because that they want to bring a change to their community, to that neighborhood, to that constituent. And I think that that's very important that we address that issue, that we should value or compare candidate to candidate based on manifesto locally, not a blanket one. But for example, like kalau in Luyang, Ginger nak tanding balik lagi, then there's another opponent come here not only telling you that vote for local party. Vote for local party for what? Apa akan kamu buat kalau kamu menang? I think that's the important debate that we have to be debating on, not because of we reject Malaya Party. And what is that? Because if you only want to go on rhetoric, okay, banyak juga local party. Siapa tu pilih? And why you and not the other local party? If you want to dwell into that narrative or rhetorical debate, it's not going to end, and it's not going to benefit anyone at all. So at the end of the day, I think we should, this time Sabah memilih should be based on memilih asasnya dengan manifesto, and what does the party's track record has proven to you that dia bukan janji bintang dan bulan, dia memang janji that dia buat janji apa yang dia janji. And I think that's very important.
Yeah, I definitely agree, and I know I'm going to get a lot of flack for this, but people always say we should make all these Malaya parties illegal to contest in the election, but that defeats the whole point of democracy. Democracy means you have the freedom to choose, and you also have freedom of choice, right? So I definitely agree. Like, let the people decide in the end, right? It's democratic. But now, with that in mind, right, because there will be those perceptions, right, that you cannot run away with, and I want to touch upon, because recently the courts has shown that the federal government has failed its duty to pay the 40% revenue to Sabah, right? Now, because DAP and UPKO are in the unity government, right, as it is now, I want to know maybe this question might be bigger than any of us, right? But what can DAP Sabah and UPKO do to translate this victory into negotiations where we can create a mechanism so that 40% can be returned can be kept in Sabah? I mean, I believe your Secretary General Nasanggang does all these workshops, and I believe your party president is also involved in the committee, right?
Yeah.
The council, right? And also DAP is very close with the unity government, right? How can because we also want to go negotiations, right? We want to talk to them. We want to work. We can work where we can. We compete wherever else, right? How would you see your respective parties bring this, constitutional safeguard to ensure that a mechanism that is properly fulfilled from the federal level over to the state level? How would you hold your parties accountable to that safeguard?
I think to speak on behalf of kononnya kena label Malaya Party, but I think we don't prefer to be called that. We are a national party. Malaya Party is if the candidates here or the leadership here orang Malaya. Tapi bukan sebuah Sabahan pun. And kita kena dipilih, bukan dilantik oleh orang Malaya pun. Or dipilih oleh ahli-ahli Sabahan. And I think that's correct, that the national party, in a sense, where the advantage or the strength of a national party is you have the volume or you have the capacity to bring internal negotiations. When you have the strong number of that, number of reps across Malaysia, you have a bigger voice that you can stand on and you can fight for better rights. Other than the 40% issue that I think that I would like to congratulate Sabah Law Society on behalf of that. But also, not to forget, selain dari Pakatan Harapan, tiada pun mana-mana ahli-ahli politik berani masukkan, file any challenge to the federal government. We fought that challenge when we were in opposition. We retracted because of the conflict of interest, and we do not want them to have a precedence of kala case and make their case even susah lah.
Yeah.
Other than technical side, I'm saying that people that are now mocking that you retracted the case, everything, tak berani pun masuk case, tak berani pun file. They only marah-marah sini sana, and that's why I say, just shouting wouldn't solve the issues and help us to get back what we rightfully deserve. And I say that to allow that this happens, we have to. Politics in Malaysia, we see that dari dulu satu parti boleh mentadbir seluruh negara, until today we have a more democratic sense that it's more on negotiations. And if we are in line with the federal government, let's see. People always say, look at Sarawak. We should emulate the Sarawak model. So what is the Sarawak model? Sarawak model is not about local party tau. Sarawak BN sebelum the 2018. There's no GPS lah. So what is the Sarawak model is always be in line with the federal government, so that they can negotiate more things, more rights or resources back to develop their state. They have never been in opposition state government. Sentiasa in line with federal government. And I think that this time around, we should be in line with that. To demand more things and more resources, more rights back, we should vote for a government that is in line and can talk, be the bridge together with the federal government. And you see, kita nak bilang oil and gas. I mean, the bigger issues that people always talk about oil and gas, hak oil and gas. Siapa yang bagi Petros punya deal kepada Sarawak? Anwar Ibrahim. Prime Minister from Pakatan Harapan. Bukan pun dari parti lokal punya Prime Minister. And you see, that is the strength and advantage of a national party, national coalition of government. And I think today, in the unity government sense, there is a bigger or fairer platform that we can get more things back to runding. I know that a lot of people argue or debate that, kenapa kita nak runding? Kita kena ambil balik. Kalau kita tak nak runding, apa kamu mau? I mean, people who always shout about MS63, you have to ask them back. So, what about it? What do you want back from MS63? They always tell you, kita mau hak kita MS63, hak MS63. What is the things that you want? Not the agreement, not the paper kan? Bukan A4 paper tu kan? So, what do you want? Tapi kalau kena tanya, tidak tahu. Pemimpin teriak itu, saya ikut teriak saja. So, we have to look into that. There has been a lot of points or demands resolved, including having a Sabah and Sarawak rep into the Inland Revenue Board, Lembaga Hasil, and so more. And if we want to achieve more, we have to move forward from that debate of bergaduh saja. Kita kena runding apa yang kita mau, dan kita minta apa yang boleh diberikan. Kalau kita minta semua barang, if you want to do everything at one step, you wouldn't achieve anything at all. I think Sarawak's model is they do step by step. They know what they want and they know what they want to demand, and they kena bagilah. Sabah's problem is bukan kerajaan persekutuan tak nak bagi. We're not even clear of what we want to demand, and everyone wants to demand different things, and that's the problem. I think we have been not united for too long. Sabah's politics has always been divided. Semua pemimpin gaduh sini sana, and they all just shout the same slogan, but they have different aims, different demands. And the federal government be like, okay, which one should I give? Semua orang nak permohonan yang lain-lain kan. And I think that is a time that this time Sabah should be united and should be in line together with the government and be sure that what we want and we can make our voices loud and clear. And I think that's the way forward to demanding more resources or the rights of MS63 for Sabah.
Alright, Allison, before you start chiming on that question also, we have already limited minutes left. We have one more questions left, so please be brief on your MS63.
Okay, hold on. Let me take a breather. Okay, so first of all, I think that most people forget that Sabah is part of Malaysia and that we are one. I agree with what Desmond said about Sarawak is actually supporting the unity government, and that it's not wrong for us to support the unity government. And that when people say Parti Malaya, they are forgetting that our candidates are actually Sabahan, and that we also want to fight for Sabah. And honestly, to be honest, I don't blame the emotions of rakyat. I don't blame the anger that they feel, the injustice that they feel. It's reasonable why they feel that way, because everybody wants justice and what is right for them. So I think that the part that we can play is that it's all about us being united, and we are not simply getting dragged by sentiments, but we are able to think Sabah as part of Malaysia, and that it is right for us to support federal government. And it's also right for us to choose what is right for the people. So it all depends on empowering each other, state and also federal, because we are this one coalition, honestly. Without Sabah, would there be Malaysia? Yeah.
All right. Okay. Last question that we have for today is that 52% of the voters in the upcoming is youth, ranging from 18 to 39, which is all right. So there are also new voters, around 662. This is according to Berita Harian, first-time voters. Look at that camera and tell them why they should go down and vote on 29th of November. Let's start with Allison first.
The youths should go down and vote on 29 November, because the future is in our hand. We decide who will lead us for the next 5 years, and this 5 years will create a huge impact on our life. Walaupun kita semua cakap, saya tidak mau libat dengan politik, politik ni kotor. But when we refuse to vote, we are letting the bad people lead us. We need to decide. We need to go out and decide that shapes our future for the next 5 years, and that our vote matters because it is what is shaping our democracy. When we want change, we go out there and choose the leader that is truly can represent you and your constituency.
Okay, I think keep it short and simple. If you don't vote on 29th of November, you don't choose for yourself, other people will choose for you.
Oh, yeah, clock.
All right, that's some of very, encapsulate everything that we talk about so far.
Yeah, definitely. I think it shows that, people like to say, oh, vote for this, vote for who. I don't see anything. But we've seen two very fresh faces here who have definitely can think at the policy level, not just at the political level, and also even at the national level, right? How is it that we work together with everybody else to ensure that what we get is, to us, right? I really like the point when you said that Sarawak punya model. It's true. They cooperate where they can. They ask for what they want, and it's never necessarily under MS63. It's what they feel is right for them.
The petroleum.
So in that case, it's great to see that young people, upcoming potential leaders, hopefully both of you would be in the ballot boxes eventually soon. Would see that
Thank you.
would see that these ideas will be transferred over into leadership,
Absolutely.
and that leadership would be used as inspiration for the next generation of young aspiring politicians. Because Gen Z, you're the current cool kids on the block. Soon to be, it'll be Gen Alpha taking over the reins as well.
Yes.
So you stand now as the sort of like the idols in a way, right? You set the standard now, and it's great to see that you have set the standard of what you expect from politics very, very high. So that concludes this episode on Belia Says. Haffiz, what do you think so far?
I mean, if any youth out there, kalau kamu fikir macam politik ni kotor ke, ini semua ni orang muda-muda ni tokenism saja, I hope what Desmond and Allison said shine some lights on your perspectives, because that certainly cannot be 100% the absolute truth, because whatever you see on the ground on social media could be 100% contrast. So talk to your peers, talk to your classmates, talk to your local young leaders, and what do they think about it, and then make up a good decisions based on what you know firsthand, not by some makcik share in the WhatsApp group saying, oh, kau tengok ni, apa ni begini ni, because we expect more from youth Sabahans here. You are the educated one, and please shine the lights for the next 20, 30, even 40, 100 years in the coming decades. So remember, this is a series for a podcast episode brought to you by Kopitiam Council and also SABAR. See you in the next episode.